So, I'm Jay Freeman. Starting out in introductions, they usually give your name and your hometown, but I have a title that's known as the man with no hometown. And people ask me, where are you from? And I say Mississippi. They ask what part. I follow up with what part are you familiar with? And the reason for that is I don't have a solid point to start from. It's just Mississippi. I moved around a lot growing up, and it certainly played a major role in my upbringing and my influences. Started out, I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which, quick history lesson and fun fact, was a major winning point in the Civil War. Fast forward, my mother is from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, which is the heart of the Mississippi Delta, also the home of Muddy Waters. So you can imagine that the blues influences were right around the corner. Also, I give a lot of props to Brookhaven, Mississippi, which that is where the majority of my family and the responsibility is responsible for my namesake is Freeman. So those 3 points were major points and pivots of my life.
Okay, interesting. I would never have guessed. So, with that history lesson, let's talk about the Soul Country Music Star Awards contest and what happened on Friday evening. You were the runner-up. No one likes to lose. How did that make you feel?
I actually felt good because even in losing, it still was noticeable improvement. And somebody who I competed in the Soul Country Music Contest last year. So to say from there until last Friday or this past Friday, I've only picked up my guitar 6 times and only sang notes about 7 or 8 times. It felt pretty good to be runner-up.
Okay, well, I have a challenge for you. You competed last year and you didn't pick up your guitar but 6 times from then until now?
Yes, sir.
Were you serious about competing this time around?
I was serious as far as the exposure, but I've had a struggle with balancing work life and artistry. And I know that's a part of it that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Me personally, I'm a blue collar worker, so averaging 55, 57 hours a week, getting off the clock, though that's how you get 6 times of picking up the guitar. And I know a lot of artists or a lot of workers don't like to talk about it or say the part of it, you have bills to pay. So that's one thing about it is why I look more at the exposure as a confidence point, because it gave me that motivation I needed to see, hey, look, you can do this without the effort. What can you do when you manage everything and put forth the initiative?
Now that you've said that, what is the game plan for the next 6 months, the next 12 months?
As far as for my personal artistry?
Your personal artistry,
Well,
particularly how it relates to the Soul Country Music Stars
Well, for
competition.
one, I'm going to surpass the 6 times picking up a guitar and make sure I make that number a lot higher. But as well as more studying myself and my vocal capabilities and my range. I want to educate myself more in my personal artistry, so therefore I can know more and don't walk in as blind, my own personal hindrance.
What made you decide to enter the competition 2 years ago?
It was the exposure and the opportunity of networking and connections and wanting to get out there and see, maybe do I have a footing in this? I have friends in the country music industry already. I've been to Nashville several times and, kind of rubbed shoulders with some people. So it's always kind of been a small fire, but that was the first stepping stone for me to actually take hold and say, okay, let's see what I can do with some attention.
And at this point, you feel pretty confident that the next few steps are going to take you in the direction that you really want to go in terms of a winner at the Soul Country Music Star Awards.
Yes, sir. I'm beyond confident, to the point that I have analytically taken apart my performance to already to say what I could have done better, what hurt me, and what might have helped me, so I can add all that into my game plan for further advancement.
So why don't you tell us one of those things that you really feel like you gained from that, one of those things that you will work on with diligence?
The confidence of being original. And that was my biggest hindrance in the competition because, you know, I made a joke about having the guitar as a prop and not playing it, but, you know, as much as that was funny, it still would have been better for me to show the audience, hey, I can play it. I just chose not to. And like I said, the confidence of being original, that's where that came from. Lack of confidence in my own talent and relying solely on that backing track.
So you do play guitar?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, okay. So the two songs that you did, you could play those with your guitar if you had to?
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Okay. How long have you been playing guitar?
I started playing guitar in 2020. I always say that I got my fix from Quarantine Academy. I had an old, I forgot the brand of it, it's an off-brand guitar. I got it for Christmas, and you know, when COVID hit and everybody got stuck in the house, that got me to, you know, sitting in the room for 4 or 5 hours and strumming, and next thing you know, I was memorizing chords and recognizing chord progressions in different songs.
Okay. Now, are there any artists that you could point to that you've taken notice of, you've learned their style, and you mimic their style, or you've taken their style and made it your own?
I would say for that influence, my biggest would be Charlie Pride. With that, saying that, because starting out he did a lot of easy chord progressions as far as strumming acoustic guitar, and his baritone is so close to mine. So a lot of his songs, it was easy for me to match in tune. And the first song I learned to play on my guitar was one of his first #1 hits called All I Have to Offer You Is Me. So I definitely mimic a lot of my playing style and some of my vocal capabilities after him.
You know, a lot of people my age and your age have no idea who Charlie Pride is. So I think you can do well in terms of mimicking him to the extent you need to, and no one will ever know who you're mimicking. It will become your own.
That is true, and I've gotten that as well. I've sang some of his songs, and you know, people ever, did you write that? And I say no, and then when I would play the original song, they were like, oh, you sound just like him, and I show them I look like him too, and that's the part that blows them away.
So the songs that you played on Friday night, how did you decide that those would be the songs?
So, that first song was, I knew it would be a crowd rapper. And I knew that with my voice and how my bass kind of sits, it would be a song that would be expected. Because that's one of those kind of cliche country songs that, you know, you can hear it everywhere and almost everyone knows it. The second song is more modern, and it has been taken off of the charts and it's been all over TikTok. So I know that's been another song that, you know, people couldn't help to hear. Now, my third choice, that may not have been my wisest choice, but what I was going for was old school choice in song that would grab the older crowd. Only reason I say it wasn't my wisest choice was I couldn't get my tuning right to follow that backing track. So that was another thing that kind of showed me, okay, be confident in originality.
So looking back at the event on Friday evening, did you have an opportunity to talk to Nathaniel or Kurt J about your performance?
Yes, I did actually. I talked to both of them, and you know, they gave me extensive advice and told me their own backgrounds and stories, and you know how they got over hurdles themselves and what helped them. And another, I asked them and inquired more about their own personal confidence and how did they find it and navigate.
And do the judges talk to the contestants, or they just do their judging and that's the end of it?
No, they talked to the contestant, like I said, with Nathaniel, he was a judge. I talked to him. The other judge, I was not familiar with her. I can't really remember her name, but she did approach me afterwards, telling me she enjoyed me and enjoyed my tone. And the last judge, Miss Villery, she approached me as well, telling me she was proud of me because she remembered me, and also to keep going forward. And she got on to me, be original, as what I also said.
So how do you take those lessons and turn them into success the next time out?
I keep them imprinted in my mind, and then I apply them to more than just music. Whereas they, like I said, one judge, she complimented my voice and said she thoroughly enjoyed me. Well, I get compliments on my voice from speaking and reading and things like that as well. So I apply that to want to advance my vocabulary, work on my pronunciation for certain words, find new words, find little moments like that will also grab different audiences, not just with music, but the way I speak or the way I transcribe emotions, things like that.
You seem to be very prepared for this interview.
This is all just, hey, this is freehanding.
So, I guess what I mean by that is sometimes when I ask questions of people, they take a moment to think about the answers, and it seems that you've given your career a lot more thought, shall we say, than action.
That is correct. Once, like I used the word again, analytical. I'm a very analytical thinker. So I explore every possibility, every consequence of every action. And that can help, but that can also hurt, because it can help as in preparing you on what to look for. It can hurt because it's one of those, like they say, you put the carriage before the horse. And you start exploring so many possibilities that you forget to take the action.
Okay. So, next, what's up next for you? Do you plan to enter any contests between now and next year's Soul Country Music Awards?
Well, I won't say that I plan on it, as in I haven't researched any coming up, but I will say that I'm more inclined, if something comes across my desk, to take the time out to go forth and take that extra step. Because I know it's going to help more than it hurts. And that's just going off of what just these two separate dates or points in time with Soul Country that I performed, how I felt afterwards. And this year I came a lot stronger than I was last year. And whereas I thought that about myself, it was also very noticeable to the rest of the audience and everyone who remembered me from last year. So I got compliments on that from the contest itself all the way up until the end of the second show at the rodeo. So it felt good that many people remembered me and I made that much of a mark.
Well, that is important. So what would you like for our readers to know about you that we haven't talked about?
Outside of music, I use the word again, analytical. And like I also say, I apply different logics to different facets, not just the one they were intended for. So with the analytical part of me, I am analytical of myself as far as I have a secret hobby of exploring my roots and understanding where I come from, my parents, things like that. I'm very big on ancestry and genealogy. And that just comes from, I know the experiences I've had. Like I initially mentioned, growing up in 3, 4 different parts. I forgot to mention that I went to high school in Jackson, so I'm familiar with the metro area as well. But I know how that has affected me, you know, just in those lifestyles. So I like to reach back and understand more about my personal history so I can apply those situations to now, or kind of even give my perspective a different understanding to what I see. You know, put it into a different form of life, so to say.
Do you have the opportunity to play in any juke joints or local night spots where you live?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I have played at the Blue Front Cafe twice. That is in Bentonia, Mississippi, right outside of Yazoo City, or between Yazoo City and Vicksburg, Mississippi. And it is one of the, I want to say it's the oldest juke joint still around. If not the oldest, it's one of the last standing. It's run by Mr. Jimmy Duck Holmes, who has been, I believe, a two-time Grammy nominee, and it gets regular visits from Bobby Rush, Christone Ingram, and several other blues artists. People come from all over the world to come there. And like I said, I played there twice. Once was just on a random Friday night. I showed up and there were people there, and you know, I told Mr. Jimmy that I like country, and he gave me a look at first, but then he showed me some different things that I could really incorporate a kind of bluesy style country. And you know, what I performed that night was Is Anybody Going to San Antonio by Charlie Pride. And that was another night where, you know, people took attention and, man, let me get your picture. Do you have a TikTok or Instagram? Man, I can't wait for 10 years to tell people, yeah, I knew him when he first started. So, you know, that was another good feeling that I got to experience. But outside of that, I just don't know of any more juke joint type of spaces where they still have that live music.
Okay.
I've heard of some, but you know, that's the closest one to me that I've had at arm's reach.
Okay. So, I guess one of the things that we should do is make an appeal to our audience to reach out to you if they know some place that you can.
Yes, definitely. I am. Listen. I'm all for juke joints, saloons. Those are my spaces. You know, I've hung with the big wigs and the high end places, but dive bars and hole in the walls is where I flourish. Just being honest.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with us and tell us about your story. We wish you the best, and we look forward to seeing you at the Soul Country Music Star Awards next year and beyond.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.